Favorites, the podcast, part of the Volume Podcast Network. I am Chad Millman of the Action Network. Today, I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, my companion, my compadre, my BFF professional bettor, Simon Hunter. Hello, Simon.
Chad, right now, hot topic in Philly because of Saquon Barkley. He said the Eagles were that past Eagles team was a top 5 Eagles or just team ever to win a Super Bowl. In the list, Chad, you're 1985 Bears, which I thought was respect to one of the greater teams. I didn't think Saquon would know about the 1985 Bears. So, yeah, it's a hot topic, and obviously you know where I'm coming from. That I respect that Bears team, but I'm obviously going to put my own Eagles team above that team. So, yeah, it's fun debating Super Bowl winners, obviously, but it's funny enough that young people even talk about the 1985 Bears. It's not just Chicago people.
Listen, that 85 Bears team, if you're a football fan, it's one of the most prominent franchise sort of markers for any fan. Like, it's discussed in any conversation about greatest all-time teams because their defense was so dominant, and the Super Bowl shuffle. They had so much personality.
I think it's all the nicknames. You got the refrigerated Perry, you got Sweetness in the backfield. It feels like they just had the right time of like the group of characters with a great defense, with a great head coach. And, it just goes together right. 85 Bears. It just sounds like it's meant to be.
That team also, Jimbo Covert, left tackle, Hall of Fame. Walter Payton, running back, Hall of Fame. Mike Ditka, head coach, Hall of Fame. Jim Finks, GM, Hall of Fame. Dan Hampton, defensive end, defensive tackle, Hall of Fame. Richard Dent, defensive end, Hall of Fame. Steve McMichael, defensive tackle, Hall of Fame. Mike Singletary, linebacker, Hall of Fame. Like, that team literally had 7 Hall of Fame players and executives and coaches. Other than the Steelers, there's no other team that can match that. The 84 Niners can't match that. You talk about
none of those Dallas teams of the 90s had that many Hall of Famers.
Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin. I don't know that they had, we'd have to look it up, but like the Patriots, they didn't have that many Hall of Famers.
No.
The Eagles, how many Hall of Famers will they have? Like, that Bears team was dominant. The only failing of that Bears team is that they didn't win more Super Bowls. And that was because Buddy Ryan couldn't get along with Mike Ditka. He decided to leave. The defense was never as aggressive. After that, they were upset in multiple playoffs 2 years in a row. Like, it was a beautiful, gorgeous lightning bug of a team.
Once again, though, I cannot believe that Saquon had him in his top 5. I just thought respect to Saquon. The kid's under 30. The fact that he knows his football history like that, I just knew you would love that. Where, as an Eagles biased fan, I was just like, I can't believe this kid went back that far. I did not think Saquon had that in his bag. So I thought.
Who else did he have on his list?
I think it was that Dallas team, that Patriots team. What was it? I think Patriots won in 07, or was that the undefeated was 09, I think. But and then the big debate with him, the other guys he was on the show with, was just talking about these Chiefs teams like of the past, where it's like no one views them as the greatest team, right? Even though they almost won 3 in a row. So I just thought that was interesting too, where that's just a kid like him talking about it when he said him and all of his boys are debating it, and I told you my view of it. The Eagles team, it's always the future as we move on, bigger, faster, stronger. We always talk about that, how it changes things. This Eagles team, I'm going to probably do it this offseason because I have so much free time. I'm going to definitely simulate it and just see what these two teams would do against the 85 Bears against the Eagles. I would love to know what that spread would be. We'll see. Maybe I'll do a con for action, first one in forever, about all these past Super Bowl teams. But, this Eagles team, I graded them out. I told you I had that lower grade on them than that Ravens team that lost 2 years ago to the Chiefs. So it's funny where it's an all-time great team to our perspective because they just, has scored the most points of playoff history. But it'll be interesting what the data says because I think it's going to say otherwise.
Well, look, Simon, that is 100% a podcast. And if you think we're not doing that as we get closer into the summer, to fill one of the episodes. You're freaking crazy. And you and I are going to be together and we're going to talk about the other teams on that list for a good time. And we'll simulate who's going to be favored and how that game would have played out. The other Hall of Famers on that Cowboys team, Aikman, Dion, Emmett Smith, Michael Irvin, Larry Allen, Charles Haley,
Mm.
plus Jimmy Johnson. Um, Look, I think the Chiefs, the last thing we'll say about this before we bring in our guest, I think the Chiefs are going to have Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones. They might have Joe Tooney. They're going to have Spagnuolo. I think they're going to have Andy Reid. They're going to go down when you look back as one of the most talented Hall of Fame teams for sure. And I think they'll be up there with the Steelers, the Bears, these Cowboys. Fascinating topic and good for Saquon. Good for Saquon for respecting the old G's. We are joined today, speaking of an OG, our longtime colleague, one of the most opinionated people at Action Network. You can hear him during the NBA playoffs on our Buckets podcast and every week during the NFL season as co-host of the Action Network podcast. His hot reads on the Action Network podcast Sunday night episode with Evan Abrams are invaluable. Welcome back to the show, Brandon Anderson.
It's good to be here, guys. I didn't know we were doing some Herschel Walk talk today. Herschel Walker basically funded the entire Jerry Jones Cowboys Hall of Famers. Probably like the best thing the Vikings have ever accomplished as a franchise. So, repping my home teams here. Good time to be a Minnesota sports fan, as always.
Brandon, I don't know the answer to this question. I feel a little bit like a lawyer who is being told to ask a question and he doesn't know the answer, and that's always dangerous. But Matt Mitchell has told me I have to ask what is happening at your house right now. And I'm assuming Matt knows that the rest of our audience is going to be tickled by what's happening at your house.
Man, my house is a disaster. So about a month ago, I get a call from my landlord at like 7 a.m. So I'm renting a townhouse. There's 4 townhouses, they're all together. We got like the shared 4 corners. And I get a call that says, "Hey, I need you to wake up, get downstairs, find out if you have water coming in. The neighbors have called and complained. They're getting water. It's from your house." So I go down, I look. There's no water. There's nothing happening. There's no water anywhere. Nothing's happening in my house. We spend the entire week. I got an AC guy coming out. I got a heating guy coming out. We got like people coming out checking the kitchen, the piping. We got City of Aurora coming out checking underneath the house. Like they're sonaring down underneath my house. They're finding nothing. In the meantime, I'm like, guys, there are 4 houses. We share a corner where you think the water's from. Check the other 2 houses. No, no, no. It's your house. Finally, a full week later, we find out, you'll never believe this, is one of the other 2 houses, their water heater busted and has just been slowly leaking water. In the meantime, because of that, water has been slowly like squishing up through my flooring like another foot or 2 further into my house each day. So I didn't really get like standing water, but it turns out water being in your house for a week is real bad for your house. So since then, they came in, they tore out all the all the flooring, all the paneling. They had to take out 2 feet of sheetrock all the way around. I have no kitchen. I have no bathroom on the main floor. There is a bathroom, and my one sink in the house is the upstairs shallow bathroom sink. So I gotta like fill water bottles, take them down to my refrigerator, and that's what I can use. But I can't cook really. I have just a refrigerator in my house. I work from home. I'm at my house right now. Like they are working below me right now in my house. And this is just my house. This is what's happening for a month and counting right now. Current ETA is like July, maybe, when I will have a
No,
normal functioning house again. It's been a month. This is where I live. This is my life now.
that is terrible.
But
I feel bad for you.
by the way, the 2 feet of walls missing, just to be clear, those are the walls separating me from my neighbors. I share a house with my neighbors now.
So can you
There's a sheet
see,
of plastic between me and my neighbors.
like you can see
I get
inside
their
their house?
smells, I get their sounds, I watch their TV shows. I'm getting everything from that. I could like crawl into their house if I want to.
Well, what else is going on in those houses?
It's a mess.
Simon, as a real estate owner, this sounds like a nightmare.
It does, and I would just be happy that he's not suing me. I feel like this is like the ground determination. This guy has
Yeah,
broken your
right.
contract in many different ways, but yeah, this the part that stuck out to me is you said it's gonna be done in July, just in time for you to be done doing your NBA season,
I
and
know,
it's
right?
like
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. No, you're a trooper, man. I'd be losing my shit, but that's this is part of life. This is why, as someone that has been a renter and rented, this is the greatest fear is exactly what he's explaining here, which is just all shit going wrong and then it just falls on you and you have no other options.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel bad for you, brother.
Well, you know how it goes too. Like my landlord's not even the owner. I get like the landlord manager company. So I can't even contact the landlord. They're contacting their insurance. The neighbor who found the water is contacting their insurance. The neighbor whose house had actually provided the water is doing their insurance. My rented insurance doing crap. Nobody will communicate with anyone else. And yeah, when you're not the owner and can't just like figure things out yourself, you're stuck waiting on like 8 lines of communication. And I'm like, really, right now, during nightly NBA playoffs and like daily bucket episodes, this is the time? Of course, this is the time. That's always the time.
All right. Can we get down to business, please? Because as terrible as I feel for Brandon, we've got some NFL futures to discuss. That's the promise of this show. We're gonna play a game, okay? We all love betting MVPs. Brandon, you specifically love betting MVPs. You just nailed the NBA MVP, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. You had him at 6-1 this past season. Evan has some information on the most recent MVPs from a betting perspective. We'll have a 2-round draft. You can't draft anyone 20-1 or shorter. So that includes the 7 favorites: Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, and Justin Herbert. They're all between 5-1 and 20-1. We each get 2 picks. I'm going first, Simon second, Brandon third. We go back around. Brandon wants to go last. You're probably going to throw out a couple extra names at the end quickly, right? You
Yeah.
specifically want to go last. I get to go first. Okay. Okay. So we've got CJ Stroud, we've got uh Jared Goff, we've got Jordan Love, Caleb Williams. Brock Purdy is interesting to me. I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go Brock Purdy 35-1. And here's my reasoning. We've talked about this a lot over the past couple months. We love the Niners. And Simon, we love the Niners when before the schedule was announced. We love the Niners even more after our podcast with Warren Sharp. I bet the Niners 25-1 to win the Super Bowl. And I think last year was so bad and such an anomaly for this team because of all the injuries. I am betting on them being healthy. I am betting on them having a favorable schedule for the first time in probably half a decade because they haven't made it to an NFC championship game at the least. Uh, so I'm betting on Brock Purdy 35-1.
There you go. Brock Purdy off the board. I'm gonna go with Chad already knows all this. I'm on the Cowboys. How am I not go with Dak? 45-1. My view of it is this is probably one of the better offenses he's gonna ever play. And the fact that they went out, got a star receiver to be his number 2 receiver. They know the deal, right? You're in the division right now that you are looked at as a third team. Like they know that Washington and the Eagles are placed above them. To me, this is the perfect spot to back Dak, a guy who's coming off a fluke injury. And the previous season before that, he was basically second MVP voting. So the fact that we're getting him at 45-1 in a division that he's basically left for dead, I mean, no shock to no one listening to the show. I am all in on the Cowboys. And we already talked about their schedule. If he goes through that schedule and wins this division, somehow gets to 12 wins, I could easily see him being in consideration for that MVP award. So I like that value here on Dak.
All right, that was going to be my second pick. Brandon.
So those were my 2 MVP picks 2 years ago. That was my position for the season going into the year. I think a problem with both of them, you often see like the one-off candidates. I think they both had their MVP year. I think their MVP year was that year 2 seasons ago. Dak finished second. Purdy, I thought, had a real case to win. you often, if you're not Mahomes or Allen or Lamar, one of that level of quarterback, you often have your MVP shot. You have one shot at it with that one great year. I fear with Dak and maybe Purdy that they maybe had that year already. You mentioned Evan. Evan had the stat that in the NBA, the last three MVPs, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jokic, and Embiid, all three were 6-1 or shorter. It's the first time in 15 years that we've had three short favorites. In the NFL, the reason I want to do this draft is because we often have longer number MVPs. 7 of the last 10 MVPs have been at 1,100 or longer heading into the season. So typically, if it's just one of those generational Hall of Fame guys, that's fine. We're not going to give you short odds. We're not going to give you like a 2,000 on Mahomes or whatever. If that's who you want, that's who you want. But there is a lot of times where, even Lamar won it at 16-1. Matt Ryan was 75-1 his year. Cam Newton was 50-1. Lamar was 40-1 his first time. So that's why we like the long shots. I'm interested by Dak and by Purdy. I'm interested in the 49ers. For my first pick, I'm going to surprise myself a little bit, actually. I don't really love this team or player, but I like the number, and I don't mind betting on being wrong sometimes. And if I'm wrong, how would I be wrong? Could it be this version? I have not been in on the Rams. I do not really believe in the Rams, but if the Rams are good, Matthew Stafford, 50-1, I think is a really interesting MVP pick. Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua, that's like the best 1-2 punch receiving core in the NFL. You got a good running game with Kyron Williams, Blake Corum a second year. They've invested in the line. I don't super trust the defense yet, but they're young. They were coming around late in last season. They're a 10-win team 2 years in a row. And we've seen when the offense is hot, like they can beat anybody. They can drop 40 points any given day. And Matt Stafford, the thing too, you always need the narrative here. 37-year-old Stafford on his last leg, set up for retirement. Is he a Hall of Famer? Like we're all going to have that conversation if he's having a big year. And it's a tough division because I agree, I like the 49ers. But if the Rams actually can win the division and be toward the top of the NFC, I think Stafford at 50-1 is a real bargain and should be in that like 20-25 range. So he's my first pick. I surprised myself.
I gotta say, I love that one too. Simon, I don't know about you, but like my two futures bets are the Rams and the Niners. And so I don't have any issue with what Brandon is saying about Stafford.
Yeah, that was the first team I took a position on. And I got lucky, obviously, because they afterwards added Devontae Adams. And it's like, okay, that was a huge move I needed them to make. But I love the pick, too, because I think Stafford was actually bad last year. Like, I don't think he had that good of a season.
Yeah.
I thought he had a bunch of injuries that they kind of covered up, that it was ailing him. You saw just a different Stafford after that Bills game, right? That game where their offense was so explosive. He basically did nothing 3 or 4 weeks following that because I think he was battling through stuff. So my view of this is the same as what he just said. It's like Stafford, veteran quarterback, prime his career, has the weapons coming off what I perceive as a down year. 50-1, I'd take that anytime on a guy like him.
All right. My second pick.
Wait, doesn't he get back to back? Are we not doing that?
No. So let's say more. I want to go last.
Brandon's going last every time. We're not doing it. We're not doing a snake draft.
I don't need the head start.
My second pick. I am gonna go with Trevor Lawrence 50-1. I don't like
that was my next pick. You stole
really?
From me. I should have gone.
Oh, God.
I don't love Trevor Lawrence. He hasn't lived up to expectations. But given the division, given the coaching changes, given the added talent, how good Brian Thomas Jr. was last year, can Travis Hunter be anything close to what the expectations are? He'll certainly have the weapons and the opportunity. And if he's remotely close to what he was a couple of years ago when they won the division and made the playoffs, he's going to be in a position. He'll have a puncher's chance to win this if they end up winning their division, because everyone is expecting it to be CJ Stroud and the Texans. So, looking for value, I'll take Trevor Lawrence.
It gets gross once you start getting down here. So I get
it. Really
I
does.
just I, I'm so burned by him right now. I just need to see him have a full season healthy and, be compatible in an offense because it sounds crazy, but Mac Jones came in and Brian Thompson Jr. played better, and that team looked like they played better. So that's not, you don't want me to be in the same mindset of saying Mac Jones came in and did better than you at your job. So Trevor Lawrence, this is a massive, massive year. And he's a quarterback who's very lucky that they're playing in Jacksonville, right? If he played in any type of other big market, this man would be getting crucified almost every offseason. So big year upcoming for Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence. My pick, Chad, I feel like Brandon talked about it a little bit. It's that year two quarterback, right? That's where you get these crazy long shot values. Like one of my best bets of my career, Mahomes 50 to 1. The next year, Lamar 50 to 1. Like that was a really fun run of these guys making their first year starts, getting really good long shot odds before the public and the books caught up to it. When I'm looking at this list, Chad, it's hard to imagine any of these quarterbacks being like those two. It really is. Like, really, Penix is about to take that next step. I can't do it. The one guy I can do it with, just because the odds are so insane, they've come down a little bit too, is Bo Nix. I bet this one. He was 100 to 1, down to 80 to 1. Now he's 75 to 1. It's just really about Sean Payton in that offense. Like, if Bo Nix is who he thinks he can be, all of a sudden, it really is an offense that runs through him. This kid throws for 40 touchdowns, runs for 10, maybe 12 touchdowns, explosive year. That team somehow wins the division. First time someone outside the Chiefs wins that division. Bo Nix, to me, could easily win this award. Like, he has all the tools, has the coaching staff. It's just, do we really believe in Bo Nix? Was last year simply a fluke? Was that literally the peak of Bo Nix was what we saw last year? Yeah, that's a risk, but at 75 to 1, I don't care burning that money. So to me, I like those long shot odds on a year two quarterback that potentially the storyline is there to take that next step. And everything you've seen this offseason, him working on his throwing motion, working on his feet, it's all there laid out. Is it a flash in the pan from last season? I don't know, Chad, but I like that number, 75 to 1.
Two other quarterbacks in his division have odds between 5 to 1 and 20 to 1. So he will have to exceed the preseason expectations of two other quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert. Brandon, your last choice for MVP.
Yeah, I looked at those sophomore quarterbacks too. We obviously had the six guys drafted last year. JJ McCarthy's not a sophomore quarterback. He's basically a rookie, but in a good position if Minnesota wins well again. We saw Darnold kind of get like I don't know, is he in the conversation? No, he was not, but if you're being talked about in the conversation, maybe I could see Penix maybe getting into that spot. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, and again, similar to your Trevor Lawrence pick, Chad, soft division, very winnable division, very good chance to get to 12, 13 wins if things go well there. Drake May, that was my favorite quarterback of the choices last year. I like a lot of the Patriots. We'll talk about them in a second. Yeah, Lawrence was who I was hoping to take here, so I love that pick. I think that's as much a pick on Liam Cohen as it is on Trevor Lawrence. Bringing in the coach that last year got Baker Mayfield to 4,500 yards and 41 touchdowns. If Trevor Lawrence does that, and then they win the division and get in contention, he's going to get that golden boy bump into the MVP conversation. All right, I'm trying to decide if I want to make like a realistic long shot pick or just a long shot pick. And I'm last, so I'm doing both. Okay, Kyler Murray, that's my pick. Kyler Murray is 50 to 1. This is my more realistic one. Kyler's been in the MVP conversation at the midpoint of the season, like two previous times. He's just tiny, and then he gets hurt, and then that's it. But we've just been watching Lamar Jackson the last couple of years do the thing where you get the highlight reel runs, you make the crazy, plays, very like TikTok generation sort of thing. Just give me the 3 or 4 big plays of the game and grab my attention. Kyler's always going to have that. You now have back-to-back years, Tet McMillan with Marvin Harrison Jr., plus the tight end. The coaching staff is young, but the team has been slowly rounding into form. I'll admit what I don't love here is it's a tough path to win a lot of games. You got to win a lot of games to win MVP, and I don't know if I trust the defense yet. And we've been talking about multiple teams in that division already. So that's not great. I would love Kyler Murray better if it was in a more winnable division, but 4,000 yards, 25 scores, five, six, 700 rushing yards and some scores, and those highlight plays, the scramble around, make something out of nothing. That's the play. And speaking of which, similar style player, Chad, you're gonna either gonna love this and bet it immediately or absolutely hate it and kick me off the podcast. I'm going off the board, 250 to 1 for a starting quarterback in the NFL named Justin Fields. Justin Fields of the New York Football Jets. There's your Lamar Jackson long shot. If he starts all year and stays healthy, that's the key. He could get 1,000 yards rushing. He probably will get 1,000 yards rushing and 10 scores. We've seen Lamar Jackson. We've seen Cam Newton, probably a better candidate for Justin Fields. Running quarterbacks can sort of break the MVP formula. I like what the Jets did, bringing in Aaron Glenn, bringing in a new coaching staff they believe in. There's a lot of talent on defense. Glenn can get them back on the right track. There's Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall on offense. There are weapons. They've invested a lot in the offensive line. I think Fields is an interesting flyer for the team that probably is going to go very terribly. Probably this will go in your MVP portfolio and you'll be like, man, I can't believe I made that stupid bet. But just in case, that's what I thought. 3 years ago, I bet Trey Lance because I just wanted any Shanahan quarterback 50 to 1. And not only did Trey Lance not win MVP, he didn't even start. He got benched and traded and was like the third string Cowboys quarterback. And it was in the Action app, top of my list as my top future as the futures guy at Action Network. But the next year I went back to the well with Brock Purdy, 50 to 1. He didn't win either, but it was a great pick and a great value that gave me a lot of shots later in the season. Fields, if he actually plays decently and gets his runs and gets the highlights, 250 to 1 for a decent NFL starting quarterback is just too long for an MVP pick. We know it's a quarterback. There are only 32 of them. That's only if you count like Cleveland and some of the teams that didn't even have real guys. So Justin Fields is the long shot of long shots. Chad, do you love me or hate me?
You couldn't even make that whole pitch without your voice cracking because you know how absurd the idea really is. That is what I think of it. I feel like whatever water is underneath your house has slowly seeped into your brain because it's outrageous. Listen, I love the Stafford pick. I like the Dak pick. I like the Purdy pick. Trevor Lawrence is a fun little taste. I agree with you, Simon. Like I was looking at the odds sort of that we have in front of us here. I was debating between Drake May and Bo Nix. We're going to talk about some coaching changes, so I don't want to go too deep into Drake May. So Fields is off the board for me. Kyler Murray is interesting. I just think he's not going to be better. His team is not going to be better than the Niners. They won't be better than the Rams, in my opinion. So I'd rather invest in the other two. But I like the conversation. That's a fun conversation. Coaching coordinator changes this offseason, Brandon, that you think you love, that have the biggest impact positively or negatively on Super Bowl future values. Any way you'd like to slice it, you start.
Yeah, I when I get prepped up for the beginning of the new football season, coaching and offensive line are the two areas that I think are the biggest edge bettors can have, big picture on a team going into a season. Who got the big coaching change that's going to help the team, then raise the floor or raise the ceiling? Who got the trenches upgrade? And I think the answer to both of those questions this year, Chad, is your Chicago Bears. Chicago and Ben Johnson. I know it's all the hype. I know the Bears are always the offseason champs. This season, I think it's actually legit. Ben Johnson, with the culture change that he's going to bring to the locker room, with the play calling, I think with the aggression that he's going to bring from the Dan Campbell tree, I think maybe he was the aggression. But it's not just Ben Johnson, and that's part of the reason I love this. You never know what happens when you go from like the star play caller to the head coach. Dennis Allen. I love the rejected, failed head coach back to just humbling thyself to become a humble little defensive coordinator again. Dennis Allen's a fantastic defensive coordinator, and there's talent to work with there. I'm intrigued too. I don't know a lot about Declan Doyle. He's the new offensive coordinator. He was the tight ends coach for Denver and the Saints before that. Tight ends coach is what Ben Johnson was. we're seeing more and more tight ends coaches as tight ends become versatile weapons. Are you in line or are you out split out wide? Are you receiving? Are you blocking? Like tight end coaches are kind of touching a lot of parts of the offense, so they bring a lot of versatility and new ideas to an offense as well. So, look, we know, I just said earlier, I'm a Minnesota sports fan. I am not a Bears fan, even though I live in this area here. The area is buzzing about Chicago coaching. And between that and the huge investment in the offensive line and Grady Jarrett and the defensive line, like they are pressing all my buttons. And I don't know how, I know the schedule is daunting. The road schedule, oh my goodness, like you can't really make it much harder than that. But Chicago's coaching and investment in the line. I don't know how I can not be in on this team going ahead.
Yesterday, I got a text from, I've got my Chicago text chain, and the text yesterday was the anatomy of the Bears season, which starts with your fans are excited for the season. Season ends in disaster. Fans sad and depressed. Off-season hype videos. So we are in the middle of the off-season hype video, fans excited for the season phase. Brandon, from your mouth to God's ear. Like let's make it happen. And by the way, Chicagoans got a direct pipeline to God right now. So
It's true.
we should definitely be taking advantage of that. There was a great story, I think, in the New York Times today about how long can can Chicago hype for the Pope last? So we're already getting to the point where we know the hype for the Pope in Chicago is not going to last. So we might as well use it for all we can and try to get as many prayers in for the Bears before everyone has the Pope backlash. Simon, coaching change, coaching that are positive, negative, impacting future odds for you.
First, I want to know how terrified you were when there feels like there's only one reporter left in this whole entire world. It happens to be your boy Seth. Were you terrified when he texted you, "Hey, doing a story on the Bears"? Were you like, "Holy shit, this is bad"? You do not want him coming around your team. So
Hold
I
on.
can only imagine that conversation.
Look, we're going to have Seth on the show to talk about his book. For those who don't know, Simon is talking about Seth Wickersham, who's one of my closest friends, and he has a book coming out in the fall in September called American King: The Biography of a Quarterback. I've read it. It's it's brilliant. It's so brilliant that like it has sent me into a 6 week spiral about the book I'm working on and how can I make it as good as Seth's. I swear to God, we've been talking about this. It's so freaking good. And he's with Caleb Williams in his pre-draft process and then during his season with the Bears. He goes in detail with John Elway, Steve Young, Warren Moon. He goes back to Y.A. Tittle. Like it is an amazing book. And I hope everyone buys it. And he will come on and talk about the book. Simon, I knew about this already because Seth had been telling me about the book for 3 years, and we had had lunch many, many times where he told me what he had on Caleb Williams. That the news came out last week from Seth that Caleb had didn't wasn't watching film with Shane Waldron, wasn't getting direction, had really connected with Kevin O'Connell from the Vikings, was hoping to get drafted by the Vikings. Caleb's dad was trying to pull sort of an Archie Manning and get the Bears to not draft Caleb Williams and get him drafted by somebody else. This week, Ben Johnson acknowledged all that, said, "We don't mind that reputation. This is what we're here to turn around." I thought he handled it great. Caleb hasn't said anything about it. Seth blew up last week. He and I were on the phone when he was in the middle of all his media stuff. I was in Lexington, Kentucky, and it's great. It's totally great. I got a text from my son when I was on the road because all this was breaking when I was on the road, and who obviously he knows Seth very, very well. The text was, "This shit from Seth is so fucking annoying. All I'm getting is Caleb Williams hates the Bears in my timeline." So that's how it landed in my house as a Bears fan.
And I'm the other way where it made me so happy where it's like we all knew something was holding back Caleb Williams last year. And when you go through the numbers and just going through last season, it's incredible what he did. And like that's why like I'm still have not budged, still have him above Jaden Daniels, and I'm still very excited. And that to me, the slam dunk hire of the offseason, it's what we just said. It's Ben Johnson, right? Like the fact that he has him now, it changes everything. And for me, mine's gonna be a little more boring, and that's how I like it here. It's got to be Brian Schottenheimer. Like I love everything about this move for Dallas because he is what people view as Jerry's lapdog. And the disrespect he got from that hire, even Jerry disrespected him in his hiring process. What do you call him? He basically called him like he was never the coach. Now he is the coach, and
He's the cheap version of Mike McCarthy.
yes. And I view this as a net positive because nothing's really going to change much there. Their offense is going to be the exact same. But now we have a guy that, to me, is already being doubted by the public. And Chad, me and you made that joke instantly. I can't wait to bet on this guy in the regular season. The playoffs, he's just going to be like his daddy. Like, that's when we're going to fade this kid when he gets to the playoffs. So the jokes are already there. But to me, the team that jumps out to me is a guy that, I talk all the time as an Eagles fan. I've hated a lot of our hires. The past one, Nick Sirianni, who just won me a Super Bowl. You want to hate your head coach. That's the best outcome for most of these teams. For Dallas and their fan base, I think this is perfect. No one likes the Brian Schottenheimer hire. They're being doubted. We talked like I'm all in on this team. That one jumped out to me though of just Dak going to be comfortable in this offense. Still, the fact that this guy is kind of being bashed on by the media. Those tends to be the coaches that work out, not the guys that we all love and adore coming into the season.
Guys, the answer is Robert Saleh to the San Francisco 49ers. As much as I love Ben Johnson, and believe me, like I'm all in on Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. I think the division is terribly hard. I'm not quite sure the defense is good enough yet. I think their schedule is just a tragedy, and the NFL should have thought harder if they're going to put their highest profile new hire with a transcendent, potentially talent at quarterback. Give him a freaking break in the schedule. Robert Saleh, going back to that defense after the just mess that was the New York Jets, feeling liberated from the New York media, from the Johnson family, from the quarterback drama. That defense, when Robert Saleh was coaching that defense for the Jets, was elite. We saw how bad they got after he left, and he was doing that with every obstacle. He was handcuffed by this team. He gets to go back to San Francisco with a talented defense and a coach who will trust in him implicitly. And a lot of guys on that team who remember what it was like when he was there. And he was so freaking good and so smart. And the way he was so intense on that sideline, he got to be himself as a defensive coordinator. He couldn't do that as a head coach with the Jets. Give me Robert Saleh, San Francisco 49ers. You guys are shaking your heads.
Yeah, that was my second pick as well, and frankly, it's a 1B more than a number two. Like we talked about this just before we started the show. San Francisco was my very first bet of the new NFL season to win the Super Bowl next year. I know you guys are in on them as well. We forget because it's been a few years now. Number one, the Jets defense just last year was great with Robert Saleh. Then they got rid of him and it fell completely off a cliff, but he was that good for them. Before that, though, the thing we forget, as much as we give Kyle Shanahan credit and as good as the offense Saleh is, their defense actually ranked higher than the offense in the years that Saleh was there. And it's not like the offense was bad. That's just how great, how elite the defense was. So you're right. It's not the same names anymore, but there's still a lot of talent there. They lost a ton of injury games last year.
Yeah.
So just getting back healthy, I think they, to me, remind me the reason that I picked them was I was due in like January. Okay, who will be next year's? What's the team that's hot right now? Who's next year's Commanders? Who is next year's Eagles? That sort of thing. I think that the Niners are next year's Eagles. I think getting that new voice in to lead the defense, a new old voice in their case, just like the Eagles did, and then getting healthy again, and a team that just the stock is too low because of the way the season ended, just like the Eagles had the previous year, where the Eagles, remember, fell apart and we didn't even know are going to keep Nick Sirianni or going to fire him. And we even got that a little bit into the season. It was 2-2 starting out, I think, and we didn't know if they were going to be any good. They got to that bye week, and everything just clicked into place, and off they went. Obviously, McCaffrey was out last season. That's the Saquon Barkley of the team. Getting him back, we say running backs don't matter, but a couple of them really do matter and change everything about an offense. Getting him back in there, getting Trent Williams back healthy on the line. I'm not worried about losing Deebo Samuel. They've got plenty of other options. They were preparing for that anyway. I think San Francisco, to me, is a co-favorite in the NFC. Like, I don't even think that they are a sleeper. I would just put them with Philadelphia and ahead of Detroit or other teams in the NFC. So I think the revamped defense, the renewed defense is big there. I really like Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator hired in Seattle. I wanted to be excited about them with him and with Mike McDonald. And then they were like, yeah, but we're not really sure what we're doing. Goodbye, Gino, and goodbye, DK. That was my other Super Bowl bet. I'm already just kind of counting that ticket as a loss because I don't know what's happening. They decided they're in transition when I thought that they had a possible contender there. But to my San Francisco pick, to our San Francisco pick, the one thing I didn't love about it was that I really like Seattle right there in the division. So, okay, well, if Seattle's worse, I guess San Francisco can get a couple easier wins in the division maybe as well. So those were the coordinator names that really caught my eye. The coaching names, Simon, I guess I'm proving your point. I did not like Brian Schottenheimer or Matt Eberflus. I know I like the rehire of the defense. These just feel like kind of retread names that gave up in the cycle. But that's your point. That's the narrative thing. And it is a little crazy that Dak is 45-1 MVP, as good as he is, as good of weapons as they have with George Pickens now. So, yeah, I think what you said is interesting. I'll have to kind of rethink the narrative because it does feel like a very low spot on perception on the Cowboys.
Yeah, and I would just say, too, the 49ers, the biggest thing, my biggest worry is the Eagles nailed the fucking draft. Like, they nailed the draft. So, to me, the 49ers, that's been the kind of the Achilles heel these last couple of years, is Lynch has not been nailing the draft like he was in the early 2020s, right? And, for a team like them that have to pay these top talent guys, you have to nail the draft. So I'm really excited to see what Saleh can do with these young guys, especially the secondary that they have in San Francisco. So I'm right there with you. We got to talk about it, right? The best coaching hire to me is up in New England, a guy we all love. Is it not? What do you say, Chad?
Yeah, I just asked you who the best coaching hire was. You gave me 10 minutes on Brian fucking Schottenheimer, and now at the end of this, we're going to Mike Vrabel. Of course, Mike Vrabel is a better hire than Brian Schottenheimer.
I don't know if that's true.
I'm just thinking, do I think Robert Saleh is a better piece to get the 49ers over the top and make them more of a Super Bowl contender? Do I think Mike Vrabel is making the Patriots a Super Bowl contender right now? Maybe.
There you go. That's right. I just think he can change the whole culture. So that's why I love it so much. Where it's like he can come in and just change. Why didn't you say him
first over Brian Schottenheimer?
No, because the Brian Schottenheimer was so out of left field. People knew the Vrabel conversation was coming because you teased it earlier. So I didn't want to start with him just because people knew it was coming. But it's the move that just jumped out to both of us. We loved it so much. My sick mind. I was thinking of all the ways we could get rid of Sirianni after that week 4 when we were 2-2. I was like, Vrabel. Oh my god. Fire this motherfucker. Bring me in Vrabel. Give me Vrabel right now. We'll win a Super Bowl this season. Nah, I'm sorry, Nick Sirianni. You're the man. But Vrabel.
Well, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Right now, if you could have Mike Vrabel for the next 5 years or Nick Sirianni for the next 5 years.
I'm biased, though. I don't like Sirianni as a person. That's my issue. So I can't. The blinds are too blurred. That whole thing when he talked shit to Eagles fans, and then rather than owning up to it at the press conference, he brought his kids out, Chad. I was out forever. That totally rubbed me the wrong way. And I respect him as a coach and as a man, obviously, but as just a general person, I just do not like him. As Vrabel as a general person, I'd be boys with Vrabel. I'd pack a dip lip with Vrabel. Vrabel is that man, that dude. He's a man's man. And the fact that, this offensive lineman they drafted was a Will Howard, that he was blocking with him, getting a feel for him, see how he could work his hands and his body.
Oh, I saw it. I
love that.
Great.
Yeah, that's the stupid shit as a football fan I just love to hear. So, that one jumps out right away where it's he can come in, put his identity in this team. Like you just said, Chad, they probably won't win this year, right? We all agree Drake May has a ton of talent. he would have to take an insane jump in year 2 because they just don't have the weapons on the outside, in my opinion, to really factor into that division with the Bills. But crazier things have happened, right? So, Vrabel, to me, that's a hire that New England felt like they were doing everything wrong after the Brady era. This feels like the first of 2 right moves, right? Taking Drake May, then following it up getting Vrabel the next year. So I'm interested to hear Anderson's take on it because, I think you like Vrabel as well, but not too many of us hate a guy who wins us tons of money every time he's an underdog as a bettor.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, he's such an overachiever. So I'm of two minds on it. I think here's what I want from Mike Vrabel. I would love to hire Mike Vrabel as the head coach on a 3-year deal, and then you have to leave and go to a different team because I think he is a floor raiser, but I do not think he is a ceiling raiser.
Interesting.
I think Vrabel is the guy you want to bring in. Like bring him in to remake your restaurant and your business and get everything going. But then you need Sirianni to get the Super Bowl after that. Like you need innovation and creativity. I don't love how Vrabel manages games, and I know we over-index on that from a fan standpoint. Coaching is a lot more than that, but I think the way that he sets up the team, it's very, it's what you love, Simon. It's what we love as football fans. It's old school. It's smash mouth. It's run first. I think he's perfect for this Patriots team right now. A little bit of Belichick still, a little bit of that flavor still, and a team that just needs to raise the floor. So I'm going to use this to launch into, we're doing my off-season hot takes. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my off-season hot takes all into one take. I think the Patriots can be this year's Commanders, and I think the Commanders might be this year's Texans. Here's what I mean. Patriots floor raising. That's what we saw with the Commanders last year. They had a ton of salary cap, and then they spent it on just dudes everywhere. And I was like, oh, really? Like, go get a couple real names in here. And it turned out the dudes everywhere, making the offensive line much better, just adding veterans on the defense, Bobby Wagner and Frankie Luhu. Those dudes raised the floor, and Jaden Daniels raised the ceiling. And the new coaching staff gave them an opportunity. That fits the formula here. The Patriots still lack talent. You're right. I don't know that this is not a Super Bowl pick. This is maybe a worst to first division winner pick. I think the Bills have a little more holes in the roster than they might look. I know Matt Mitchell won't like to hear it, but I know he's down on them because of we're doing Hard Knocks. We're coming off the MVP season. There's a lot of reason that the Bills, this maybe isn't the Bills' year. They're kind of transitioning. Meanwhile, the Patriots add Stephon Diggs at receiver. Not a lot left, but something there. Back in the division, he knows. I love Kyle Williams from the draft. I thought he was a really good pick for there. Another receiver. They drafted Trevion Henderson. You mentioned Will Campbell, the lineman. They brought in Morgan Moses on the line. They paid big money for Milton Williams, who was fantastic in the playoffs on the defensive line. Carlton Davis, probably the best cornerback available. Just lots of talent everywhere. So Vrabel raised the floor. Talent everywhere raising the floor. Drake May, can you raise the ceiling? Can you be Jaden Daniels this year? And I don't know about, again, not Super Bowl ceiling, but this to me, this is a screams over this year as an over team and a possible, if they can get things right, division push where we talked about Fields and the Jets, but the reality is they're probably not going to be that good. The Dolphins are downswing. I think the Bills are certainly not upswing. So maybe you think they stay the same, but in the NFL, you don't usually stay the same. You go one direction or the other, and I think that they are going the wrong direction. The Commanders, I think, might be this year's Texans, the team that is all hype. We all got excited. We watched, what was it, I think 5 straight one-score victories at the end of the season. They knocked off the Lions. Congrats. The Lions were playing the 3 of us on defense at the end of the season. Like, somebody was knocking off the Lions. They just happened to be there for it. They get the big trade for the receiver. Stephon Diggs for the Texans. Deebo Samuel for the Commanders. Oh, we got the new weapon for our new shiny young quarterback toy. That's the star. Well, is he? Because CJ Stroud was the big sleeper MVP last year, and then he kept sleeping all season long and never really woke up and had a great season. Is that Jaden Daniels? I like Jaden Daniels, but growth is not linear. You don't just become a superstar and that's it. You're going to take some lumps along the way. I wanted them to continue to add up the roster. This year, they did the big splash. They put everything in on Laramie Tunsil on a trade. Laramie Tunsil was really not great last season. They're missing Sam Cosmi on the line. I don't know. The line got a lot worse as the year went on. The defense still lacks a lot of talent. I don't know if the Commanders are going to be as hype as everyone thinks they are. I think they could disappoint like the Texans, and I think the Patriots might be this year's Commanders instead.
Look, Simon, a few weeks ago, we said the Patriots at what was it, 16 to 1 or 30 to 1? It was some outrageous number.
No, just to win their division, but it was crazy. It was
Right,
it
right.
was like
But to win their division, it was like an outrageous
it wasn't
number.
that though. I think it was 7 or 8 to 1.
I think that was the Titans. I don't know if someone can look up and put it
I'll
in the
look it up.
chat.
No, because
Um,
the Patriots are way down, brother. Now they've been bet down since we even talked about it. Like
all right, well,
after our show, they moved. I
at
think
the
they're down to
time, they were
plus
pretty
four
long
hundred.
odds. Whatever it was, like the Bills are minus 275 to win the AFC East, and we loved the Patriots and got a little blowback for it. We still like the Titans more to win the AFC South if we're looking at sort of worst to first, but I don't mind what Brandon is saying about the Patriots at all.
I don't mind it, but I really love what he's saying about the Commanders because I'm of the same exact mentality of him. It's just like they came out of nowhere, shocked the world, and now everyone's just like, well, that's who they're going to be now. Jaden Daniels, he's a top 5 quarterback. This is a team that every year they're going to win this division or fight to win this division. It's just like what he just talked about. It's never that easy. You peak and value, peak and value. That's why when we talk about these 3 guys at the top, the Lamar, the Mahomes, the Josh Allen, they're the unicorns. They're the guys every year that get you 10 wins, and that's just not normal, right? There's just ups and downs. So what he's talking about here, this is why I love Dallas. It's like everyone's all in on the Eagles, Super Bowl winning team. Everyone's all in on the shiny new toy, the Commanders. Everyone has left Dallas for dead. Dallas is no worse off than they were last year when they were plus 130 at this point to win the NFC East. So it's just that's why I love this job, Chad. It's just overreaction. It's just last year, the amount of shit I took for talking about the Eagles being a top 3 team coming into the season because ESPN had them ranked 12th or 13th. It's what do you people want from me? It's like this is my job to make a living doing this. It's I'm never biased. I'm happy to take Dallas, right? As an Eagles fan, I am happy to bet Dallas. Why? Because I know it's a smart bet. It's all about the values here. So everything you just said about the Commanders, we're on the exact same page about it. It's just this team had everything break right for them. Jaden Daniels was the best 4th down quarterback we might have ever seen in the history of the NFL. So much regression is coming to that team. So everything you just talked about, it's dead on in my opinion about the Commanders.
Brandon, what are the odds for the Patriots to win the division right now?
The best number out there right now is a plus 650. The
Plus
plus
650.
5, 600, depending on your book, and a plus 650 is the best.
All right, well, look, we've unpacked a lot of stuff here today. We've done our hot takes, we've done our NFL MVPs, we've done our Super Bowl futures, we did our draft of NFL MVPs. I like it. I like where we landed. Hopefully, Brandon, you've got your galoshes and your apartment travails will clean themselves up real soon, Brandon Anderson. Thank you for joining everyone. Listen to Brandon on buckets throughout the rest of the NBA playoffs. Simon and I will return with our next episode of The Favorites Tuesday on the Action Network YouTube page. Download us from Spotify, Apple Pods, wherever you get your pods. Rate, review, subscribe, leave us 5 stars. Say whatever you want. Feedback is a gift. Until next time, love you.